I am absolutely excited. Who is as excited as I am to be live at the TIP Fathers Conference? The TIP Fathers Conference is an annual conference, annual platform where we bring fathers to talk to fathers. I like the TIP Fathers Conference because for me, it was a big deal starting this last year. Already, we always have had TIP conference, annual conference generally, and we usually would, come in here and talk to parents generally. But hey, we had to do this for just fathers. And let me see you in the comment section. If you're joining us for the first time, say hello. This is your first time watching an annual conference. If this is your second time, then you can tell us a hi. Let's see you hit that like button as it goes. And we have the speaker, the man in the studio. I'm going to tell you a bit about him personally when we are done playing his profile, all right? He's somebody that I love and he knows, all right? So we're going to play his profile and then we'll bring him into the studio as we go live. Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch.
Taiwo Akinlami. Taiwo Odinakachukwu Akinlami is a public interest barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. For almost 2 decades, he has worked with growing businesses and organized social work society, NGOs, faith-based organizations, community-based organizations and related bodies as a legal consultant, advisor and trainer. Akinlami is arguably Africa's foremost child protection thinker and practitioner, being the founder and principal of Taiwo Akinlami Child Protection Academy, Africa's pioneer child protection academy. He has authored 5 handbooks, 23 audio programs, and 4 ebooks. His unique philosophy and teachings on family strengthening, child protection, and related matters have been well received in over 133 countries across the globe. He is a consultant, researcher, facilitator, conference speaker, mediator, social intervention content provider, child protection and rights enlightenment and education curriculum developer, an astute contributor to brainstorming and planning sessions, a child and youth trainer to a number of organizations including UNICEF, Premier League and British Council, USAID, UNFPA, Child Frontiers, SOS Children Villages Nigeria, Association of Private School Educators of Nigeria, Association of International School Educators of Nigeria, Association of Christian Schools International, and the National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools in Nigeria, local, state, and federal arms of government, and other leading national and international organizations on child protection and related matters. Akinlami is an independent listener to the resident students of Grange School, Ikeja, Lagos. He is the Secretary General of Child Protection Network, an initiative of UNICEF in Lagos State. Akinlami is a prolific writer, poet, and blogger. He has over 500 articles and poems published on his blogs, exhibiting his unique thoughts and ideology on subjects like child protection, social empowerment advocacy, and lawpreneurship. Akinlami, who describes his childhood as bountiful baskets of dehumanizing abuses, today testifies that he is a transformed adult in spirit and soul, mind, will, and emotion by the help of God, to whom he surrendered his life on February 16, 1997 at the age of 27. He declares as his personal operating ideology, the world is a marketplace, sacrifices are its rewards. He is happily married to his adorable, beautiful, amiable, and supportive wife, Oluwafunmilayo, and the family resides in Lagos, Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, Taiwo Akinlami.
And yes, we have Taiwo Akinlami in the building, streaming live from the United States of America. Before Taiwo comes live, I'm going to tell you a bit about Taiwo personally. Taiwo is my friend, my mentor. I start from the top. My mentor, my friend, a father, a brother, whatever it is. He's that one person that will say, hey, Wendy, stop now. So you're going to listen to Taiwo. I've never gotten tired of listening to Taiwo. I am going to also step out of the studio because the moderator will be with you, Chie Dozier. So it is a men affair for the men. So as I bring up Taiwo Akinlami, and when Chedozie needs to get in here, and then he would get in here. So you are meeting Chedozie, Taiwo Akinlami, and my very first self. I'm going to also be leaving the studio for you guys. So hey, go ahead and have the floor. I will be in the background somewhere. Boss, I hail. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you today, as always. Yeah.
Good evening, Barrister.
Good evening.
Nice to have you on the show.
It's nice to be with you today. It's my pleasure. Great, great pleasure.
Welcome, sir. Such an amazing profile. So I will just ask that you take the floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes.
You know, we live in strange times. These are very, very strange times. These are times where our world need a lot of help. And we need people like Wendy Ologe and the great work that she's doing to bring help to a lot of people. And I salute her for the great work that she's doing over the years. And well before the world recognized the importance of the internet, social media to pass the message of child parenting, you know, helping parents, you know, when the Logan saw it far before even COVID and began to take steps in that direction. So I think I salute our insight, ability to our foresight to be able to see and begin to create all of these platforms recognized by Facebook and a whole lot of other organizations. I salute her. And it's my pleasure to be here again. I think this is my second time being on our platform discussing this matter that is very, very critical. You will give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. Let me attend to just one thing, you know, and I'll be back. Just give me 1 minute, right? And I would. Hello, I'm here. So, yes. I salute Wendy for the great work that she's doing. I salute our family for the great support, and I salute our entire team for taking the steps, for making it a point of duty to reach out to parents. Now, the commitment to reach out to fathers cannot be overemphasized, you know, because we are dealing with fatherhood at a very strange time. The world as we used to know it has changed and has changed considerably. Unfortunately, if you do not know the state of the world right now, you are likely to do things the way it was done when you were growing up. And if you choose to do things the way it was done when you were growing up, you will have missed the point. You will have missed the leadership for parents, for children. And so it is important that we recognize that we are on a different in a different world. I think the only thing that is still existing in the world in which we were raised as fathers is the belief that we brought from that world. Talk about technology, things have changed. Talk about belief system. There's a lot of things that are attacking decency, attacking dignity of human person, honor, and the rest of them, the way we know it. Politics, things have changed considerably, particularly in Africa. leaders are becoming more selfish by the day, not thinking about the welfare of the generality of the people. And it is in this world that we are trying to play our role in the development of children. And when we talk about development, we are talking about three fundamental areas of development. We're looking at physical development, we're looking at physical development. We're looking at development of looking at spiritual development. Then we're looking at development at the level of the soul, and so you are looking at the will, the mind, and the emotion. Now, so all of these areas of development are critical today, but all of these areas of development also are being attacked by different forces. It is therefore important for us to know that we are raising children at a difficult time, particularly when you're raising children in Africa, where the responsibility of raising children is solely on your shoulder as a father. It's solely on your shoulder. For example, there are 4 institutions that are responsible for raising children. The first one is the family. Family is number 1. Family is the first, but family is not the all. Then you have the community. Then you have the states. Then you have the international community. What has happened in Africa is that, particularly in Nigeria, is that the responsibility of raising children has been trusted on the shoulder of only one institution, the family, headed by the father. And so because of that, there's a lot of pressure, on the family. And when you talk about the pressure on the family, you talk about the pressure on the father, because a lot of times, even by reason of our theology and all of that, we have come to accept that the responsibility of raising money for the family, of winning bread for the family, is that of the responsibility of the father, which in itself is not true. But again, whether it is true or not, whether it's true or not, is the reality we are dealing with right now. So we are dealing with a situation where, if we look at it, fathers need all the support they can get. And that is why programs like this, when we have conversation, bring fathers, bring men, bring people from different walks of life, different walks of commitment, to talk to father, is very, very critical, and the place of it cannot be overemphasized. So, having said all of that, I want to, quickly talk about, fundamental issues when it comes to the role, of fathers in the life of children. So it is important for us to understand that, in Africa, before you think that, I was reading an article this morning where a man was saying that he never sat on the same chair with his father. He never had conversation with his father. And that was my own story also. My father died at the age of 82. I was 39 years old in 2009. We never had a conversation. That's the truth. He never sat me down to instruct me on any issue of life. As a matter of fact, he never had any discussion with me about how this life works. So all he did was that when he was angry, he would tie my hands, he would tie my legs, he would strip me naked and give me 6 strokes of the cane, and he would go and sit down. And that could go on for half a day. And we lived in Face Me, I Face You apartment, where everybody minded their business except gossip. So nobody was going to come for me. And the things that I saw tied when I was growing up were goats and chicken during Christmas. So if goats are without dignity, if chicken are without dignity, and I am supposed to be with dignity as a person, then I'm tied like goat and I'm tied like chicken. There's every tendency that I'm going to draw my worth from that chicken and goat that are also tied. If chicken and goats are tied and I'm tied, it must be that we are the same. Are you getting what I'm saying? So the way we were raised has become a major barrier to how we are raising our own children. This idea of authoritarianism, autocratic tendencies. I am the father, I'm superior. Forgetting that the father is not superior to the child. The father is playing a role. The child is also playing a role. And the fact that you are a father or you are an adult in the life of a child does not make you superior to the child. Because God does not have grandchildren. Every one of us are God's children. We are created in the image and the likeness of God. And so the first thing we need to recognize is the personality, is the father, is the personhood of the child. The child is a person. This child you want to help in development. You want to help his physical development. You want to help his or her spiritual development. You want to help her to develop at the level of the soul. That is the mind, the will, and the emotion. This child is a person. We need to recognize that if you do not understand this personality that you are dealing with, it's going to be difficult for you to provide leadership. It's going to be difficult for you to play your role in his life. So it is important to talk about this child whose development you are interested in, whose development you want to play a role in. Who is this child? Who is he? Who is she? A child is a person. And in the personhood of the child, we talk about three fundamental things. Number one, the fact that the child is a person of worth. The child has worth. Is made in the image and the likeness of God. When you want to reckon the worth of a child, you are going to reckon it according to the worth of God, who made the child in his own image and his likeness. Who made the child to now the richest man in the world today is Jeff Bezos. Is close to $200 billion, cannot buy a child in a legal market. That is the child is of infinite worth. It is important that we recognize that. So we're not dealing with an inferior human being. We're not dealing with an expression of a father's reduction. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about that is a mini me, small me. No, we are talking about an individual who is a person who has worth from the moment he or she was conceived in the womb. Even before the word began, the worth of the child has been established. The worth of every human being has been established. So that's number one. Number two, the child is a thinking being. The child can think. The child can think. That is why you don't think, you teach children how to think. You don't teach them what to think. The child can think. It's very, very important that we recognize that. And now, to underscore that, we need to understand that children have sense of judgment. They have sense of judgment. They know when something is right. They know when something is wrong. They can figure things out. And that is why in our own child protection plans, we say you don't do for children what they should be able to do for themselves by reason of their physical and emotional development. You don't do it for them. So the fundamental thing, therefore, is that children have sense of what? Number two, they can think. They can think. Thinking means they have sense of judgment. When a child shows reluctance does not mean rebellion. Reluctance does not mean disobedience. When I'm reluctant, because a child receives an instruction, a child processes the instruction. And when the child is processing the instruction, you want the child to move now. Except the child is in danger, you want to listen to the child. You want to get the child's point of view because the child has sense of judgment. Now, number three, a child has the power of choice. Every human being is created to choose. So when we are trying to raise children and we forget that they are persons of worth and we treat them as if they are not persons. Number two, we don't accept that they have sense of judgment. We neglect their power of choice. We don't ask them any question. We just think that because I'm the father, what I say must hold. If it does not hold, heaven and hell will fall, and I will establish myself. And the only way I can establish myself is to remind my child that I'm your father, I'm your father, I'm your father, I'm your father, And it does not work that way. So the number one thing is that we need to recognize this personality. This person is a person. That's why I'm a lawyer. And in my work, they refer to children as minor. For me, that does not work well with me. I don't believe children are minors. And I had that view for a very long time until I read in the book written by Hillary Clinton. He spent all her life, working, advocating for children before, she went into politics and all of that. She's a leading children's lawyer. She was a leading children's lawyer in the United States of America. That was the focus of her practice, children. And she wrote a book titled It Takes a Village. And in that book, she argued against this whole idea of calling children minor. In the old English law, it was a perception of how children were seen. So they refer to them as minor. Is a minor. A child is not a minor. A child is a person. For the purpose of the law, you call the child a minor, but it's not a minor, it's a person. And particularly in our country, that word minor, make us to minus children, treat them as if they are not human, they are full-fledged, they are not full-fledged human beings. And so we need to recognize, we need to accept that deliverance, that children are persons, the personhood of the child. This child want to develop. You cannot develop a person. You cannot help in the development of a person if you yourself, you don't understand who the person are. And this is the problem. The problem is that we treat children the way we see them. We see them the way we were seeing growing up. Many of us now, our concept of children is the concept of how we were raised and who our parents was with, or who our father was with. And so you now find people say, "Shebi, this is how they treated us too, and we have become who we have become." And my father did not have time for us now. Shebi, we have become who we have become. My father beat us now. Shebi, we have become who we have become. My father boxed us. We have become who we have become. My father denied us of this, denies us of that, made life difficult for us, but we are still become who we have become. But the question is, who have you become? You deal with a lot of issues. Your low self-esteem is there. Your inability to speak the truth of your conscience is there. All of those problems are there. You minimize those one and emphasize your achievement in terms of the money you are making or the places you have been and all of that. It's tragic because we have not come to terms with the damage that was done to us in childhood. Heavy damage. Unfortunately, we have not even started that conversation of the damage that was done to us as children, particularly growing up in Nigeria, growing up in Africa. Abiola began to talk about reparation. At least, even if he was not giving reparation, there was a level of an acknowledgement that slave trade was evil. It was not okay. We needed to discuss it, but there's no conversation going on as to how we today, how we are raised. Now, let me tell you something. The man behind Watergate, what's his name now? He was a president of a country. Richard Nixon, was he secured? But he was a president of a country. Was he a secured person? So we mistake what people have become in terms of attainment to the worth of their worth and dignity of human person and the peace of their mind. I think is a major misnomer. We need to understand that as a father listening to me there, you know the issues you are dealing with. You know the impact of your childhood on you in terms of being a man. You know the impact of your childhood on you in being all that God has created you to be. As a matter of fact, it's not a conversation we have. We don't even have it. You know, in a developed country, they still have those conversations. There's a program I normally watch, Criminal Mind. There's no way they talk about those people who have become criminals today without talking about their childhood. Ted Bundy, look at his childhood. I did a book, Why I Don't Ordinarily Rejoice on the Arrival of a New Birth. And what I was doing there was to study the life of men that have made a difference in our world. And I look at how they were raised. And I look at the lives of men who have caused trouble in our world. And I looked at how they were raised. Almost all of the time, the childhood determines adulthood. That is a fundamental issue. So we are not going to raise the conversation about helping our children is a conversation about us. We are not going to raise children above what we know about our knowledge. Knowledge is what to do. About our skill is how to do it. About our attitude is the fortitude to do that which you know we should do. We are going to see, when we say we are fathering children and we are raising children, we are saying, follow me and we make you. Follow me and we marry you. That's what we are saying. So children, well before they receive our instructions, they begin to receive our examples. So our children today are either beneficiaries of our example or they are victims of our examples. That is very, very important. That's why Abraham Lincoln says, how do you raise a child the way you should go? You will go there first and come back and take the child with you. You cannot be to your children what you do and exemplify to them. And that is the point I want us to understand today. I'm not here to load you with rules and regulation. All of those things don't work. Those rules and regulations are going to be run by human beings. They're going to be executed by human beings. When the human beings know the rules and regulations and they don't have the fortitude, the attitude to run it, what is going to happen? They're still going to run into crisis. So my conversation with you today is that your role in the life of your children as a father begins from recognizing who you are, where you are, where you are going, what you need to do. Very, very critical until you wean yourself of the impact of how you were raised, of the errors and the minors and the pluses, of childhood. You're going to find yourself malfunctioning. It's not about I was raised in a rich home. It's not about I was raised in a poor home. That's not the conversation I'm having today. It's about that what kind of fatherhood did you receive? Have you sat down to take inventory of that fatherhood, of how you were fathered, and ask yourself how you arrived at where you are today as a result of that experience, and who that has made you today, and reflect deeply on how that is impacting how you are raising your own children as a father, the role you are playing in their life. I think that is a very critical point. That is the sober reflection we need to have. How was I raised? Now, by that, I'm not saying that uh, um, there's a way you can be raised perfect. There's no perfect. We're not in a perfect world, so we cannot achieve perfection trying to raise children. We cannot. And our parents also did not achieve perfection. They made their mistakes and all of that. And when they were doing the things they were doing, they thought they were doing the best for us. And most of our parents were not wicked. They were not evil people. They were not trying to show us. It is what they knew that they did. And if you ask them now, I was still in a program this week where somebody was saying that that people should stop talking about abuse. That what people are calling abuse now used to be discipline. That it is the Englishman infiltration into our culture that turned discipline to abuse, so that people, and he's a lawyer, he's a lawyer, and he said that they should stop calling that abuse now. They should stop calling that thing they call abuse now. It used to be discipline. And I made a clear point in that program, to say that abuse is abuse, discipline is discipline. Those who don't know the difference make the mistake to mix up the two. And at the end of the day, they commit error. Let me tell you something. Discipline comes from the Latin word disciplinare, which is to teach and not to beat. And how do you teach? You teach by example. Simple. Whatever you don't like in your children, you are the one who put it there, either by your example or the people you give them to raise. When you are tired of what you see, what are you going to do? You are going to go back and check the way you have raised the child. That is critical. When we talk about discipline, discipline is not about children. We focus on children. Discipline is about the parents. It's about the father. It's about the father. If I pattern my life after how I was raised, my God, I would have been, first, I was not raised, I was erased. Because nature does not allow vacuum. It's either when a child is growing up, it's either you are raising the child by your example or you are erasing the child. That's if you are doing either of those. You can't be doing both. It's either you are raising the child or you are raising the child. So somebody asked me, so are you saying there was nothing good about your childhood? That's what I'm saying. My childhood was not all evil, was not all abuse. What I'm saying is that if you write an exam and you are called an excellent student, as an excellent student, you've lost some marks. But what you got superimposes itself on what you lost to the point that what you lost became irrelevant. So you are called an excellent student. If you write an exam and you fail the exam, you've gotten something. Maybe you got 30%, even 39%. There are some strict lecturers. You even got 39%. They will still allow you to repeat it, to have carryover. And it is university. It's a compulsory course. That's extra semester, extra year because you got 39. There are some lecturers like that. But you got 39, you got something. But what you got is not up to what you lost. So to the point that what you now got became irrelevant. And so you are still called, you still repeat the class. So in my childhood, there were sparks of goodness of my parents towards me. But it's just that it is not comparable to the level of abuse that I suffered. And they themselves were also victims of their own childhood. Time will fail me to talk about how my mother was raised. My mother went through a lot, being raised. My grandmother was 23rd wife, to a man who was our father's bosom friend. my grandfather saw my grandmother when she was born. And so my grandmother was so young that to the point that when my grandfather died, they still gave her out in marriage to another man who was my grandfather's younger brother, and she still had a child for him. So they too were dealing with their own issues. But the fundamental thing I want us to know today, the buck must stop somewhere. And the buck cannot stop until we do a proper and critical assessment of who we are today. Because you cannot sow cassava and reap cocoyam. You are going to produce after your kind. So what we need to focus on today is our kind. I think your first responsibility, what is my kind? What am I dealing with? As my faith, if I'm a person of faith, has helped me to deal with those issues, or I bury them under the carpet. If I'm a non-faith person, as my being a non-faith person helped me to deal with the reality of what is on ground, what I'm dealing with as a person. Am I myself? Am I able to, do I even understand what is going on? Do I understand the impact of my childhood on me? That's very, very critical. If I have this conversation with you, load you with rules and regulations, what you need to do, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Are you getting one point? You need to understand that I have work to do. And there are 5 fundamental principles that I think we need to explore in trying to do that, and I will round up with that. The number 1 principle is for us to recognize that there are issues. Recognize that there are issues. Take an inventory. Take an inventory of how you were raised. It's a journey you need to take. Take an inventory. See, I keep saying that our nation does not have national problem. We don't have marriage problem. We don't have fatherhood problem. We have only one problem. We have mismanaged childhood manifesting in dysfunctional adulthood. That's the problem we are dealing with. If you can get childhood right. When the Bible says, train up a child the way he should go, when he's old, he will not depart from it. What God is saying is that pay attention to the formative years, because the formative years is critical. That's why Paul said, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I behaved like a child. There's a way children behave. Then when I became a man, I spoke like a man, I threw away childish things. Please note, it takes becoming a man to throw away childish things. And becoming a man is not a function of age. It's a function of maturity. So you don't throw away childish things by the fact that you are now 18. No. Paul did not say, I threw away childish things when I became 18. He said, I threw away childish things when I became a man. So ability to apply principles, ability to live and ask yourself, anytime they ask you, why are you doing what you're doing? The worst answer you can give up is that I've not thought about it. You can't say that I don't know. I don't know. It's never, I've not really thought about it, which is permitted. But you can't be asked why you are doing something. You say, I can't even explain myself. What do you mean you can't explain yourself? You might not have thought about it. So the foundational thing is that, how do you become a man? Are you a man? Because it takes a man to throw away childish things. So you can be 18, 19, 20, 40, 50, 60. You have not thrown away childish things. And see, when you go to the dictionary, who is a child? The dictionary says a child is an offspring of a person and all of that. The dictionary now made a very, 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 very catchy statement. It said a child is also an adult who is still behaving like a child. Go and check the dictionary. That's what Oxford Dictionary will tell you. A child is also an adult who is still behaving like a child. So you're an adult, but you're still behaving like a child. So you need to take inventory. Number 1, what is the impact of my childhood on me? You take inventory. Number 2, you need to recognize that you need help. If your childhood was not together, you need help. Now, what kind of help do you need? Number 3, you need to subscribe to that help. You need to subscribe. Because when you have a wound on your leg, time does not heal any wound. Time plus effort. Should I say, time plus right effort is what heals wounds. So time does not heal any wound. You try it. When you hit your leg against the stone, leave it and leave it to time. Time will act on it. Gangrene will enter. Amputation will follow. Tetanus, all of that will happen. So you don't leave anything to time without effort. Time with the right effort is what heals a wound. So you don't say, you don't outgrow anything. You don't outgrow it without effort. You have to do something. So you need to subscribe. to the healing process. The way I subscribed to the healing process was to submit myself to God's word. That is how I was able to deal with a lot of issues. And I tell you, I'm still dealing with issues. I'm still work in progress. 23 years I've been in the laboratory, or I've been in the surgery room, dealing with issues, and I'm still work in progress. I told, this week I was attending a massive program, and I was listening to conversation in that meeting. And that again brings me to the realization of how our background has affected us as a people. And I used to say, there's no, Bishop Oyedepo made a statement. I think somebody made a statement, Bishop Oyedepo polarized that there's no mountain anywhere. Every man's ignorance is his mountain. So in that program, I got another insight. I said, there's no mountain anywhere. Every man's exposure is his mountain. My God, you see, you see people, well-to-do people who are supposed to have attained the height of their career, trying to take another look at their life and asking the question, what could I have done differently? It's a matter of exposure. It's a matter of exposure. Hey, my God. So I don't know how to explain this thing to you, but for me, it's a reality. I called somebody in Lagos. I said, please, your problem is your exposure. We need to do something about this, your exposure. In the course of that program, I said, we need to do something about this, your exposure. Your exposure is your problem. It's nothing. It's not your education. It's not university. It's not whether you go. It is your exposure. And when I'm talking about exposure at that level, I'm talking about the realization of who you are, of how this world is, and your role in it, and who you need to be able to play that role. Many of us have been deceived. We've been messed up. And for me, it's a conversation that is very dear to my heart. I cannot come to you guys today. I'm talking about 10 rules, 15 rules. No, we need to talk about ourselves. And time will fail me to expatiate on this. Time will actually fail me to expatiate of this, or expatiate on all of the things that I'm saying. But I want to give us food for thought. We need to go and think about it. For us to play our role in the lives of our children as fathers, recognize the fact that it is not first about our children, it's first about us, we the people, we the fathers. It's about us. You cannot give what you don't have. It's impossible. It's not possible. It's not possible. It's not possible. You can't give what you don't have. And so that's my conversation with you tonight. Saying that you need to recognize that the beginning of your role is to recognize the fact that you need to deal with yourself. Recognize where you are. And what I'm talking about is an ongoing concern. It's an ongoing concern. It's something you have to continue to do, but foundationally, if you don't recognize where you are, it's going to be difficult for you to take decisions as to where to go and where you want to go now. So you need to, number one, recognize how you were raised, the impact of that on you. Number two, you need to recognize the fact that you need help. What kind of help do you need? Number three, you need to subscribe to that help. Number four, you need to, now subscription is different from application. So many people subscribe to so many things that they don't use. How do I begin to take tangible steps? Then finally, you need to create the methodology for measuring your improvements. How are you growing? How are you changing? And I will round up with this story, which is very, very pathetic, but I'll tell you. My younger sister got married maybe 7 years ago. And the driver that we got to drive her, that day, did not show up. And so I took it upon myself to drive my younger sister, is the last born of the family. I took it upon myself to drive her to the wedding place. So we got there, and I was hooting for the gate man to open, and the gate man was not going to listen to me. He came and checked who was there and said, "My friend, park there." Immediately he said, "Park there," something rose in me to say that he thought that I was a driver, and I must show him that I was not a driver. So what did I do? I went down. I spoke the best English I could speak, letting him to know that this person is not a driver. The more I spoke that English, the more he said, "My friend," I said, "Make you park there. What's your problem?" The more he said that, the more I became furious. This person does not recognize my person. He doesn't recognize my personality, my status. How can he think that I'm a driver? So I was busy trying to prove to him that I was not a driver. The more I tried to do that, the more he tried to prove to me that you are a driver. And maybe that's not what he was even thinking. Maybe he was just an unruly old man. I didn't know. Now, should it matter to me whether he thought I was a driver or not? Was I a driver? And if I was a driver, am I a lesser person? So why should the opinion of this man, who 7 years ago, whom I've not met since that until that day, and I've not seen again till today, why should his opinion matter to me? But let me tell you, friends, I don't want to waste your time. That incident nearly scattered the marriage. It nearly scattered the wedding that day, because I was busy proving to him, speaking English, do you know who I am, all of that. My siblings came out, the whole place caught fire. And I round up by, and I was so, I felt, when after everything, I sat down, I was so sad. I was not one of the people that enjoyed that wedding. My sister by this time was already crying. It was a messy day. And I sat down and I was thinking about all of these things. And I called my mentor, Mr. Olakunle Shoriyo. I said, this is what happened today. I narrated, I didn't even know who to speak with, you know. My wife was what kind of thing is this? I was supposed to be the father of the day. The father of the day became the major crisis maker of the day. Everything scattered, I could tell you. We now had to make peace. I can't tell you, I can't tell you everything we now went through that day to even finally make the day happen. He now told me, he made a statement to me. That's Mr. Olakunle Shoriyo, we can never forget. He said, Barry, don't mistake what you have attained in life for your inner struggles. Don't mistake the things that you have attained in life for your inner struggles, for the things that you need to deal with. You see, because everywhere I go, I'm the speaker now. Most of the time, I'm the speaker. I'm the spotlight. How do you behave when you are not the spotlight? How do you behave when somebody thinks that you are who you are not, and you want to convince the person, even when it is not necessary? And that statement sank. One of these days, I still want to do a broadcast on that, mistaking what you have attained as a person for the issues you are dealing with as a person. You see, because the issues you are dealing with don't show up until there's a trigger. There's a trigger for it. And you may not see the trigger in 10 years. In 5 years, you think you are fine. When the trigger shows up, the trigger there is that you are only your best when you are at the highest level of recognition, or when somebody now think that you are a driver now, and you couldn't stand it, so there must be crisis. And that statement sent me to work. You know, I'm talking to you about what happened 7 years. Sent me to work to ask the question: is it about what you have attained as a person, about the issues, the innermost issues on your soul, which you have been distracted from by reason of who you have become, by reason of achievement? So it's a battle between who you are and who you have become in terms of achievement, in terms of what you do in your vocation, your recognition, and all of that. All of those recognition do not take away your inner struggle. The point of crisis is when you lose sight of who you are inside, the struggles in your inner soul. When you lose contact with that, when you lose touch with that, and you are carried away by the things that you have been able to do as a person for yourself. As they say, he has done well for himself. He has done well for himself. You now hear one day he commits suicide, but he has done well for himself. He has done well for himself. You now hear that he's on his 4th or 5th marriage. He has done well for himself. You now hear that his children are on drugs. He has done well for himself. So how much has he done for himself? At the end of the day, you are the one saying he has done well for himself by himself. He's thinking that, well, I think I can do better for myself. A man sent his son to China because the son has gone to many schools. No way. The child was always doing drugs. Send the child to China, thinking that the punishment for drug, if you're involved in drug in China, is very steep and the boy will not be engaged. After a while, they had to call him from there. They had to bring him back to Nigeria. So that's my conversation with you tonight. You see, friends, these are critical matters. These are perilous times. These are critical issues. And I think when we pay attention to ourselves, recognize that we're not, our children are persons, recognize that we treat children the way we see them the way we were seen growing up, recognize the fact that if we were not properly seen growing up, we were not raised and erased, we need to address it, pay attention to it, and correct ourselves and deal with ourselves and embark on that journey It might not be a battle you can win in a lifetime, but it's a battle you can begin to deal with so that you can have impact. So you can tell yourself, the buck stops at my table. I want to make a difference in the lives of my children, which my father did not make in my life. And I know that it's not an easy job, it's a difficult job, but it's something that can be done, because where there's a will, there's a way, because change is an ever-present possibility for any human being who is ready to take responsibility. Recognizing that what you have in the lives of your children is just an authority. This authority is not dominion. God did not give you dominion over your children. And what are you supposed to do with this authority? You're supposed to communicate value with this authority, so that even when you are no more, the authority, the value that you have communicated to them can transcend your existence and transcend your presence. That is how it's supposed to be. I need to rush for another conversation. I need to rush. So I'll round up here, and that will be. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Just while we're at it, I'm checking if we have any questions. If you have a question, kindly drop your questions in the chat session. I've been making notes. This has been an amazing session. Okay, childhood determines adulthood. So while we're waiting for the questions, I made a lot of notes, and then I would like you to throw more light on something as I look out for people that have questions that you can answer. You made a very important point about abuse and discipline. And then the relationship with the background where we are coming from, faith people, we have a lot of things in our religious books, the Bible, the Quran, or something that has been interpreted to mean that children should be beaten and all of that. Can you please help us throw more light on the difference between discipline and abuse?
Okay, I'll quickly do that in 2 minutes, and I will run. I need to run. I'm deeply sorry. So I will throw light on it very briefly, then I will run. This is the point. So we read the Bible. It says, "Spoil the people say, spoil the rod, spare the rod, spoil the child." It's not in the Bible. It's a poem, by the way. It's not in the Bible. Spare the rod, spare the rod. What did you call it? Spare the rod.
Don't. If you spare the rod, you spoil the child.
So you find also that there's madness in the heart of the child. The rod of correction will drive it out. Now we overlook that rod of correction. We interpret it to be rod. Are you getting it? I've studied that scripture extensively. Rod, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Psalm 23. Does God come down to beat you? Does God come down to beat you as a person? God is a disciplinarian. They said the son, the father loves, he chastises, right? God chastises us. How does he chastise us? Has it happened to you before that somebody tells you something, and maybe they tell you 2 years ago, and it appears you didn't pay attention to it, and you are sleeping one day, and that thing that somebody tells you wakes you up because it has been locked down in your subconscious, waiting for the day of expression where you are going to have time for it. And by itself, it brings itself up and begin to encourage you and begin to instruct you and begin to do something about it. Do you remember? Do you know there's hardly anybody that has not happened to? Something comes to you when you are in your subconscious. The mistake we make is that we underrate the capacity of children to reason. They are people of what? As I said before, they have the capacity to have sense of judgment. They have power of choice. We hardly reason with children. We hardly do, and it is not right. We have to reason with them. Now, there's no child that receives anything by force. It's not possible. Children receive things by reasoning. Now, you can accelerate the process. You can bring disciplinary measures, not dehumanizing measures. Please note, to abuse a child is to dehumanize a child. To discipline a child is to help the child to be conscious of his own dignity of human person. That's the whole essence of discipline. Where you say you are disciplining children, you are helping them to be conscious of their dignity of human person. You are too dignified to do this. You are too blessed to behave this way. You are able not to do these things. You are able to do these things. Unfortunately, all of that should work on the template of a family constitution. All of that should work on the template of what we have established before. The ignorance of the law is not an offense. It's not an excuse, right? But the law does not punish for a law that does not exist. We have many homes where there are no laws. No law is existing. It is when the child does something wrong, the way I was raised, nothing was existing. We don't know what was right. We didn't know what was right. We didn't know what was wrong. It was when it was wrong that they told us it was wrong. It was when it was right that they told us it was right. So we didn't even know what to do. We were confused. We were walking on eggshell. Today we did something. My father laughed because he had had a bottle of Gouda and a bottle of herb. Tomorrow we did the same thing. He beat us for the same thing we did yesterday that he laughed because he just got a promotion. Today he's beating up for the same. We were confused. If I broke a cup, a glass cup in my home, I'll be beaten for breaking the cup. It didn't matter whether I was throwing tantrum to break it. I can't even imagine that I would throw tantrum and break plate. It didn't matter that I was a child and I could make mistakes. It didn't matter to my parents. What mattered was that I broke plate. Now my father broke up. Now I was waiting for him to beat himself, for my mother to do something. Nothing happened. And so my father will now beat me for being slow in packing the cup that he broke. When I broke the cup, I was beaten. He just broke his own cup. Nobody beat him. So we make discipline to be. You see, there's a misconception about what we call discipline. We make discipline to be about children. Discipline is not about children; it's about adults. Because the father, the child is not the only person who makes mistake in the home. How do we discipline the dad? How do we discipline the mom when they make their own mistake too? The child is not the only person who makes mistake in the home. So when we bring discipline as if, and the child also begins to feel that, am I the only one who makes mistake? People make mistakes. How do we deal with the mistake? It's my own. They always deal. It's one day we committing upon. So there's a huge I don't think we should go there. There's a huge misconception about that thing. So let me tell you the last thing. If an adult slapped an adult, what do you call it? You say the adult is a violent adult. Is that not so?
Yeah.
If a child hits an adult, you say the child is not disciplined, it's unruly. Is that not so? When a child hits another child, you say the child is a bully. That why did he hit the child? Now, when an adult hits a child, you call it discipline. When an adult hits a child, you call it discipline. So note that when an adult hits an adult, it's probably maybe somebody hit another person's car and they came out and they started arguing, and somebody slaps another one. Is that not so? So now the person who hit somebody's car, is he right to have hit the car? No, it's wrong. Now, maybe he's not even humble about it. Is it right for him not to be humble about it? It's wrong not to be humble about it. Now, when they give him a slap, the conversation is going to change. Yes, I'm wrong to have hit your car. I'm wrong to have been, not to empathize. But you cannot slap me because there's nothing I can do that should make you take away my dignity of human person. Peter Nemi was sentenced to death by the court, by the Supreme Court. He was on death row for 20 years. They did not kill him. A gentleman known as Olisa Agbakoba went to court to say, see, the fact that you held this guy down, you did not kill him within 20 days, means he has served the punishment of death. Release him. The lawyer on the other side came to argue and said that Peter Nemi was not a human being. He was on death row. Then the Supreme Court justice asked, this Peter Nemi now, if you want to cook rice, can you put his leg as the firewood to cook rice and he will not feel anything because he's not a human being? That's the question the Supreme Court was asked. Even a condemned man on death row, the Supreme Court established his fundamental human right, the right to be treated with dignity of human person, not to talk of children. What have they done? Not to talk of children. That's a man on death row, Peter Nemi. The Supreme Court said his fundamental human right must be established. So if you drive through one way, it's wrong for you to have driven through one way. If a police officer slaps you, the conversation change. Don't slap me. I'm wrong. But you can't slap me. But if he's a child, the reason why we slapped him is because he's wrong. These are matters we have not had conversation with him or had before. There's no rules and regulation that we have communicated and exemplified. So, but we just believe that the child will just be okay. There's a lot of oppression going up against children. The number one kind of oppression in Africa is oppression against children, not oppression by governments. It's oppression by parents and caregivers against children. And we need to do something about it. Thank you very much.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Our time is almost up. I don't know if you still have a few more minutes with us or we are running away now. Because there's a... Okay.
Need to run.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. I think our time is supposed to end.
Yes.
It's an hour program, right? So I think
yes. We're almost done with this session.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Wendy is back on.
Thank you so much, boss.
I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
I'm grateful, sir.
Yeah, you are blessed.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk later, right? Thank you.
All right. Okay, so Chedozie, we are running into the next session, I guess. The next
Yes.
session takes us at 7 p.m. But before we get into that session, we can have, oh, please, if this class was valuable to you, please hit the like button. Look at the like button and hit that like button as we have this conversation. All right, Lee Clark, we see you. Thank you so much for those the super stickers. The super stickers means that you're supporting our channel and you got stickers or super chats and all of that. Thank you so much. We appreciate. Thank you so much for coming. If you have any questions that we need to direct to Mr. Taiwo Akinlami, then you can. Replay of this video will only be available, like we said, on replay, and we would share that you can actually do replay. You can have you can make requests for replay, and then we will make it available for you after the session. Chidozie, it was the last part for me when it came to this conversation. The last part was everything.
Yeah.
We know when I said Taiwo was my mentor, so I'm sure a lot of people will be able to connect with some of the things that he has said. Sounded a very bit like many of the things that I would say. It was such a prompt, very very well established answers, and I think for me my take home was the fact that we're not looking at dominion over our children, but authority that must be communicated, with value. Authority that must be communicated with value. I can't see value gotten. If you got value, please try the fire emojis. All right, the men. I know the men are not, but hey, you're going to do it. Try the fire
emoji
emojis.
people.
Yes, look for the fire emojis in your device and share to us. The link for the next session would be shared, via email. I'm sure you have it in your email, and you also have it in the Telegram group for the next session. So we're going to log out at this session immediately. It is 6:59 because I know that Pastor, if you're a woman, please, we don't want to see you in these sessions. If you're just, please leave us. I beg. I'm the only one woman permitted to be here. Please, thank you. Pastor Wisdom will be live at 7 p.m. He's bringing fire. Fire. You don't want to miss it. Thank you so much. And thank you to my team. Thank you, Chidozie. Chidozie, any last words before we begin to log out?
Say that again.
Any last words before we begin to log out?
No, there's a lot to chew on this. There's a lot to chew on. What is it about childhood that you need to deal with as a man? I took out that point. Childhood determines adulthood. And, a lot of adults, a lot of men are dealing with things, and we're masking it with attainment. We're masking it with financial accomplishments and stuff like that. But I think that every man should get out of this session. And he said the number 2 thing he mentioned was take inventory. I think every man should get out of this session and take inventory of our lives and see what it is that we can adjust and, for the sake of the children that we are raising.
Awesome. For the sake of the children that we are raising. And until we actually review some of these things, then we will not be able to raise the African child right. True. And thank you so much for that recap. As we get into, we're going to end this broadcast now. Again, I said that replays will only be available in 24 hours, and then we'll take it out. And then you can actually purchase the replays. You can purchase the replays with a new ebook that we are actually flagging off for fathers, and also worksheets. For every session that we have had, we're going to create worksheets for you to be able to actually take action, because we just don't want you to come here and just, do whatever it is and just go home and just start shout, wow, wow. So we're creating worksheets for each of these sessions. So you get a worksheet, you get the ebook, and you get the replays of the sessions for 5,000 naira. You can book, you can actually pre-order, but that will be available after all the sessions. So we just thought we should make the announcement. It's 7 o'clock. We're logging out of here and we're logging in to the next session. Thank you and see you now.
All right, thank you.